I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and when I'm not hearing men compare women to residential real estate, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Hey Seattle, Shop the Beat is back. Shop the Beat supports the economic recovery of small businesses, local musicians, and neighborhoods throughout Seattle. This program matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours to help increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide competitive pay for musicians who were significantly impacted by the pandemic. The City of Seattle Office of Economic Development is currently accepting applications from musicians and small businesses who are interested in participating. Apply for Shop the Beat at seattle.gov/economic development. Applications end December 1st.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the Cabinets from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Line with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince, Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Nightbeat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
It's the beat of the Fox. K-Fox Nightbeat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. The Underground Surround Sound Star Time with Paul Pearson.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound
Star
sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to midnight. Sunday evening, your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Naftali, Rainier Avenue Radio World. The best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Naftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio World. Right?
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our community election connection. It is a culmination of events that we have been doing to make you a more informed voter. We did 3 different debates, actually, that we were really excited about, and we're glad that you tuned in and watched. You had the opportunity to hear the King County prosecuting attorney debate. Then we also did the 37th Legislative Position 2 debate, and then also the Municipal Court Judge Position 7 debate. And tonight is, well, it's the time that you should vote. If you have not voted yet, you still have time. Here's the deal. It's your vote, and this thing doesn't work if you don't vote. If you talk about it on Facebook but don't vote, it doesn't work. If you talk about it on Instagram or any social media but you don't vote, this thing does not work. So you still got some time left. You've got about an hour to get your ballot to your ballot box. Make your vote count. We're going to be giving you updates on what's happening with the election as the results come in, and we're also going to be talking to some folks and getting their feedback on this ultimately very important election that directly impacts your community. A lot of times people don't vote because it's not a presidential election. Well, the elections that happen now, again, directly impact your community. So this is election night at the Columbia City Theater. It's free. You can come on down if you want to. We'll even have an open mic for a short time if you'd like to share your opinion. We've got appetizers. We've got music in the theater. We're happy to be here for you at the Columbia City Theater. What else we got? This live broadcast. Give you a little information about Rainier Avenue Radio for those of you who are tuning in and may not be familiar. This is what's going on this week at Rainier Avenue Radio. Thursday morning at 12:30, we'll be talking to Kate Becker and we'll be discussing the Cloudbreak Festival. This is something that's been put together to give tourists an opportunity to go to our local music venues for free. So if you're a tourist out there, there's a partnership with 70 hotels. You can get free passes to some of our hottest nightclubs to see some of the hottest bands. That's the Cloudbreak Festival that's taking place all the way up until 23rd of November and 12:30 on Thursday. Kate Becker will be here to discuss that. Thursday night, we're really excited about this. We have a live broadcast from Egypt. Our very own Edgar Franks will be at the 2022 United Nations Climate Conference and giving us up-to-date information about how it's going down at the climate conference in Egypt. This is United Nations Climate Conference, and Edgar Franks will be reporting to us live. That'll be 7 o'clock on Thursday night, local time. 3 in the morning, we'll replay this broadcast, which will make it easier for you to watch for those of you who will be watching from around the world. 9-hour difference. So even though it'll be 7 o'clock here, we'll be replaying it at 3 o'clock in the morning, which will be, directly in your power hour, so that you can watch this event as well. And then on Saturday, it is the WIAA State Championship playoffs. We will have the first game, Eastside Catholic taking on Spanaway Lake. That'll be at 1 o'clock. And then at 4 p.m., we'll have Rainier Beach, the Beach Boys, the Vikings taking on Kennewick. Kennewick, once again, coming from the east side of the mountains over to here to play in the west. Now, last year, Kennewick beat O'Day, then beat Eastside Catholic, and narrowly lost to Bellevue. So this should be a good matchup, Kennewick and Rainier Beach. That'll be at 4 o'clock right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. But again, tonight, election night at the Columbia City Theater. Our host is Mr. Juan Cotto, who will be joined by our very own John Yasataki, and I think the very first guest will be Chipalo Street. I am now going to turn it over to Mr. Juan Cotto.
Thank you so much, Tony B, and thank you very much for this evening. Hopefully we will be able to inform you. Hopefully we'll be able to raise awareness on a variety of different issues. But Jay Yeezy and I, first of all, our hearts go out to the families, to the students, to the entire community, to our entire city, really, over the tragedy today at Ingram High School. One of the things that no parent, and being a parent who's actually lost a child, no parent wants to hear that type of message. I'm thinking about those families who are so greatly impacted, and it's one of the deep tragedies that will impact students and in this community for a long time, Jay Yeezy. And our hearts and our minds and our prayers and our thoughts are with those people tonight up in Ingram, the Rams, and in the community up in North Seattle.
That's correct. And the latest news we got was they did apprehend the suspect. So there's a bit of, if you want to say, some good news, but again, it's a tragedy. And we were talking about that earlier. It's almost unfathomable that you would even think that you send your child to school, as many instances across this country have shown, and they never come back. You'll never see them again.
Our thoughts, our prayers, all of our minds are from Rainier Avenue Radio down here in Southeast Seattle, are with the community up at Ingram High School this evening. And hopefully our efforts and our information tonight will be dedicated to those communities this evening. Speaking of which, we have a young man who has worked incredibly hard over the last 8 months, working to be the representative of this community. And so it's exciting. And thank you very much for spending some time with us. Chipalo Street, who is running for the 37th District State Representative's Office. The seat that opened up, I want to say early in the spring, when Representative Kristen Harris-Talley wrote an email in one of our local periodicals that she no longer wanted to pursue this way of representation, and she's going to look at different ways that she can participate in the process using the platform that she had as a state legislator. But she's going to go ahead and move on, and a number of very talented candidates took a look at running for this, and in the primary election, this was the man that came out in front, and I just want to welcome Chipalo to the studio this evening. Thank you for stopping by.
Sure.
I understand you have a little party you're going to go to, so we want to touch bases with you briefly.
Yeah, I got to come see the results come in.
First of all, when you run for office, tell us a little bit about the experience and what it has done and how it has changed you a little bit.
Man, it's really surreal. It's one of those things that you see, a process that you see happen, and oftentimes think is inaccessible to yourself. But when you actually do it, the nuts and bolts are very, very simple. Like, it's knocking on doors, reach 18,000 households. It's sending text messages. We sent 36,000 text messages reminding people to vote. It's having conversations with voters. It's going to different debates and forums, and it's very, very accessible once you know how to do it. And I really encourage everyone to get more involved in our political system.
So when you saw what it entailed, you didn't run and hide and run away and hide, because let me tell you, I worked on a presidential campaign, and in 2 weeks I had to garner 6,000 phone calls. Believe it or not, and at 7 days a week, and it is a lot of work.
It is, and I think at the local level, it's probably a little bit more rewarding work because you're speaking to people one-on-one more often, whereas I can imagine as a presidential thing, it's calling people or just showing up and doing a speech over and over and over, whereas at the local level, we really do get to go talk to people, and that is very rewarding.
In all of those conversations and all of the feedback that you received from the community, what were the issues that really you felt the community wanted to talk about and felt were important?
I mean, housing is number one. Like, we are in a housing crisis, and what was gratifying or hopeful is that regardless of where the person was, whether they owned a home or whether they were a renter, everyone realized that it was a crisis and wanted to do something about it. And we realized that we have folks on the street but wanted to deal with it in a humane way as opposed to just pushing people around. And so I think there's a real understanding that housing is a number one priority for us. And finding effective ways to do it was an interesting commonality that I found at all doors, because the 37th is really diverse. You go towards the water, you have some very rich, affluent, sort of different socioeconomic than when you come down towards I-5 and the core of the district. And so it was really heartening to see that regardless of where you went in the district, everyone understood that this is a priority and has the motivation to do something about it.
Candidate for the 37th District State Legislature, Chipalo Street, the most diverse district in the state of Washington, the 37th district, running all the way from the Skyway area of South Seattle all the way up to Capitol Hill. Lake Washington's a border, I-5 is a border, and as he said, just a variety of different ethnic and economic and differences that a candidate has to be responsible for. How did this race change you? Yeah, I mean, you go for someone who's fairly unknown, and you have some anonymity, and now your pictures in all the mailboxes, and people see you at Safeway, and they probably want to come up and chat with you. How has this whole process changed you?
I mean, you see those indicators, and to me, I don't think it changes me. I mean, quite frankly, I still get horrified when I hear my own voice. I can deal with seeing my picture, but hearing my own voice still is cringeworthy for me. I hadn't even listened to
Well, you can't be in this business. So.
And the work that I've done before in terms of increasing digital equity is something that I've always been passionate about and would like to continue doing, whether it's in the legislature or outside of the legislature. So for me, it's just reinforced the importance of many of the issues that I find important and making sure that I can find effective ways to advance that in the community.
Chipalo Street, the candidate for the 37th District State Representative on Rainier Avenue Radio. One last question before we let you go. The primary election, you stuck your nose out and you were the first one across the tape there. What are the things that you felt that you needed to do, and how did your campaign respond over this last 2-month push?
Yeah, so our plan coming into this was that all the candidates, myself included, had relatively low name recognition, and so whichever campaign did the most work, knocked on the most doors, sent the most messages, raised the most money so that they could get their message out to the district would be victorious. That's what I think I would credit the primary victory towards, and so we just redoubled our efforts for the general. And so I'm looking forward in 30 minutes or 40 minutes to see the first drop of votes and see how that came out.
Well, you've got a party to go to, so congratulations on finishing the summer. That is indeed a victory itself, and we wish you the best of luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
Chipalo Street, candidate for the 37th District State Legislature.
Position 2.
Position number 2.
Right.
Appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Chipalo.
And good luck.
Seeing you. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Got that from him. And he's going to go off and go. Tell people where your campaign party is if you want people to show up.
Sure. If you want to come down, it's at Taste of the Caribbean on 12th and Jefferson.
Oh, in the hood.
He's back up there in the CD.
Yeah, in the CD.
By us, we were familiar with that area.
Yeah.
Chipalo Street, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this card.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Sure. Watch your stuff.
Watch your core.
Yep. Let's bring Rory O Sullivan up next. Rory O Sullivan. Good to see you.
John Yasutake, how are you?
Rory, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
It's so good. It's always so interesting to chat with you because you have such a unique vision of politics and you've been involved in so many unique things, including the district-wide elections and just really coming up with different ways to increase the political process. You worked very, very diligently on the city council campaigns for the vouchers, which have been so effective in allowing more people to send in. And that's become a very, very interesting way when you run for Seattle. The candidates have really got to participate in that. And it really forces you to connect with more potential voters. And it's been a unique way for us to see more people have access to the political process. Right. And now you are part of this campaign for ranked choice voting. Please tell us a little bit about this campaign and how it came about and what it represents to someone who is looking at that ballot, which we had an opportunity to do during this campaign.
Yeah, well, so the Seattle campaign is actually part of a movement. We have been seeing campaigns. Ranked choice voting has been a part of elections for actually over 100 years. Australia has been using ranked choice voting for over 100 years. A number of other countries. In the United States, there's over 50 jurisdictions that use ranked choice voting. It's used in the whole state of Maine. Alaska recently adopted ranked choice voting. A number of cities, Minneapolis, San Francisco, Oakland, around the country. And in Washington State this year, actually tonight, we're going to be finding out about ranked choice voting elections in Clark County, in Portland, in San Juan County, and Seattle. So Seattle is really part of the movement. Yeah. And we're getting to see more and more voters are interested in being able to provide more information when they vote. Not just their first choice, but their second choice, third choice, being able to vote their conscious vote, just who they want to elect, who they want to represent.
Rory, in 1999, let me get my dates right. Don't want to age myself.
Yeah, right.
1999, Ezra Basin, who was my campaign manager when I ran for the 37th District State Legislature in 1998, Ezra and I introduced a ranked choice voting to the 37th District Democrat Party. And to be honest with you, we were pretty much laughed out of the room. I mean, people thought we were crazy. Of course, again, they may have been right. But seriously, why 20-some odd years later Is this something that is starting to become more attractive to municipalities throughout the country?
Well, the technology has advanced. I mean, Australia had the technology 100 years ago, but in the United States, we're a little bit slow to develop these things. But the technology has advanced. There's more vendors out there who are able to process ranked choice voting ballots. There's more jurisdictions that have experience with it. And the voters who adopt it like it. New York City recently adopted it, and voters there overwhelmingly want to use it for more and more of their potential elections. Same thing has been true in Alaska. All these jurisdictions, once it's been adopted, voters say, yeah, why aren't we doing this for other elections as well?
Is this a big city mechanism for large, cities across the country? I know that you mentioned the cities, and I know a few of them fairly large, not the small ones. Is this something that's attractive to places like San Francisco, LA, New York, Detroit, that kind of thing?
Well, so the interesting thing is it works really well for anywhere that you have a lot of participation, right?
Okay.
So in, a couple years ago, we had 21 candidates for mayor, right?
Right.
And so, and when you only get to vote for one of those 21 people, I mean, there might be 3 or 4 who you really like, who you've met, who you've talked to. Yeah. And it doesn't provide enough information when you only get to vote for one.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about that earlier. When you have 2 candidates who are so good, so likely either one of them could be elected, that makes it tough. And just like we were talking about, we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Another question. Let me ask you this in regards to ranked choice voting. To me, when looking at the different issues that were on the ballot, and I'm one of those voters who decides to go down when I don't have it. I grab my voter's pamphlet, which John has right behind him, and started to study this. Did it seem to me like the ranked choice voting was a little bit more difficult to understand the way it was written on the ballot?
Yeah. So this is an issue that we've been frustrated by. So it's interesting. The Seattle City Charter actually has a different way of voting than the way we voted in this election. So unfortunately, there's a state law that says you have to write the ballot this way. I'm actually part of an organization that's trying to repeal that state law so that we can do it the way it says to do it in the city charter. In the city charter, the way it's supposed to be is if there's 2 different potential ballot measures that conflict with each other, each ballot measure gets put on the ballot separately, and if they both pass, the one with more votes gets enacted. That's pretty simple and straightforward. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have this state law that's based on our state constitution from 1889. I mean, this was probably an advanced way to vote in 1889, where when you have 2 competing measures, you first vote yes, no, do you want to change?
Right.
And then regardless of how you vote on the first question, which change do you want? It's a very confusing way to vote. There's better ways to vote. We're going to work on repealing that law. But tonight, what if you want ranked choice voting, and I know there's a lot of people out there who do, you have to vote yes on the first question,
right,
and then 1B on the second question.
Yeah, in my house, everybody said, what does this mean? And we read through it, and we read through it, and we read through it. I'm still not sure everybody understood it. What about you, your household?
Same thing. I mean, and I vote the first day I get the ballot. Right. When mine comes in, I want to make sure I don't lose it. I want to make sure I don't lose it under my mail. Get the ballot in the mailbox quickly. But that was the one where I spent the most time on it. Yeah. It seemed just a little
1A, 1B. Right. Yeah.
Roy, what are the prospects for tonight, and what is ranked choice voting? What are you guys looking for tonight? What's the campaign hoping for?
Well, so I'll tell you, we already have results out of Evanston, Illinois, passed ranked choice voting by 82%.
Wow, okay.
It's on the ballot in Nevada. We're going to see how Nevada turns out. It's on the ballot in Portland, in Clark County, in San Juan County, and in Seattle. So I'm not just going to be looking at Seattle. I'm going to be looking at how this movement progresses around the country. I think we have some really exciting opportunities in Seattle to bring ranked choice voting to the Seattle primary, but I see this as a part of a nationwide movement, and I'm hopeful that if we get it passed in Clark County, in Seattle, and San Juan County, that we can develop a statewide movement to bring it statewide and really start improving our elections over the whole country.
Oh, that's great.
He is Rory O Sullivan. He is the former chair of the 37th District Democrats. Rory is a South End activist. I think that's being polite. I mean, Roy has just got involved in everything, so well known for all the work that he has done, for the candidates that he's represented. He's run for office, and he's also, once again, he's a person who's been involved in so many unique ways to tweak to get more people involved in the political process. I appreciate you taking some time with us tonight, and know you got a little function to go to as well. Tell people where you guys are meeting up at.
Yeah,
tonight.
so the party for the ranked choice voting party is going to be at the Comet Tavern tonight on Capitol Hill.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So yeah, we're gonna have a good time.
He's dressed for the occasion.
Yeah, well,
Easy was good. Rory, thank you so much, and great to see Yolanda. Good to see both of you tonight. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Good to see you, my man. All right. Rory O Sullivan.
Nice meeting you, Roy.
Ranked choice voting.
And good luck.
We have some early returns in from across the country. I don't know how accurate these are going to be, and I'm certain that these are small sample sizes, but in the state of Georgia right now, the numbers that I have Raphael Warnock ahead of Herschel Walker, 51.3% to 46.9%. I did not see how many precincts are reported, but early on it looks like Raphael Warnock has a 5% lead over Herschel Walker in a race that was highly contested and certainly was a race that drew a lot of national attention. In the Georgia governor's race, and I don't know if this is a shock or not or surprise. I know it's a very, very close race down there. Brian Kemp has a 3-point advantage at 51.4% to Stacey Abrams at 48%. So Stacey Abrams is a little bit behind in that. Once again, I did not see the precinct total, and I'm sure over the next several days, this is bound to change. But these are the early returns. In Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania, and I'm kind of surprised at this, John Fetterman is ahead 61.6% in early returns to Mehmet Oz.
Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz, another national campaign that raised a lot of visibility and awareness, and people were tracking all summer long with, especially with a quote unquote celebrity candidate. Dr. Oz has 36%, 61-36, which to me is a little bit of surprise.
That is a surprise.
It was interesting how the early returns that are coming in.
Well,
so it's interesting how this all turns out.
Now, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the GOP was hard on Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It looked like it was their mission and objective to change that state. Really interesting. The numbers are interesting.
Two interesting candidates, or two interesting conversations that we just had. First of all, it was nice for Chipalo Street to stop by. And John, we were talking about it earlier, two excellent candidates in this race, Chipalo Street, Mijah Smith.
Right.
Usually happens in Democratic districts. Tell us about just the campaigns where we're having two really good candidates go against each other.
Well, that happens all the time. It seems you get two good candidates. And the way I learned it when I was a kid coming up, we used to vote for school officers and stuff like that. You start splitting votes and lo and behold, before you know it, somebody who's an outlier gets in because the votes get split. That probably isn't the same here, but I think it's important to understand we have some quality people that if they don't make this run and successful, that they should move on to another area, which I think is important.
How do you feel about this top two primary that we have in the state of Washington? Once again, we take the top two candidates, regardless of party, and they run against each other. It seems like sometimes it could be, like you said, a waste in talent. So it's a waste in money. People supporting all this race to have two really good Democrats running against each other.
Or two Republicans. I mean, no, it is right.
Or vice versa.
It is. That has to be. We have to look at that and how effective that is. Because again, one of the things that we know as this country, people don't vote in the way they should. And we have so many barriers and things that, like I said, you read the pamphlet, it's just so confusing. The more we can do to make things simpler and simplify it, we can blunt that attack on, what's going on across, voter suppression and all that stuff, I think,
It was great once again to see the ranked choice voting, and I'm so glad that Rory came by and stopped and chatted with us about the impacts of ranked choice voting and what it could mean for the community. Yeah. Think about it, John. Ezra Basim and I, we really did look into ranked choice voting. We thought it could be a really unique way to make sure that multiple candidates got some support when they ran. And I really like how Rory explained it. And what are your thoughts after hearing Rory O Sullivan's message?
Well, I think it works. But the problem is I only saw one commercial that even talked about ranked choice. And it wasn't for the state. It was for I forgot, some place back east. And I know that I said there are other major cities across this country have ranked choice in place. And I think we need to really look at this. If this measure doesn't go through, we need to go back and look at it again. And like you said, it would be great. I think it'd be beneficial for those of us in the voting public. It will help us to make that decision, much more effectively.
We'll talk about a number of these races tonight. Once again, a even year election here in the state of Washington and across the country. 1/3 of the Senate is up for grabs. We have all the congressional seats, certainly Adam Smith. And over across the water, we saw if you watched the Seahawks game on Sunday, the commercials came out en masse. Kim Schreier, Matt Larkin.
Right.
They were throwing haymakers and punches at each other.
Tiffany Smiley.
Tiffany Smiley and U.S. Senate candidate Patty Murray. And we see over there, come on up, Andrew. I saw you over there. Good to see you. Good to see you.
John. That's the talk. How you doing?
Andrew Ashiofu is here with us today. Andrew, how are you?
I am nervous.
Well, that's good though.
I don't know what you heard about our reputation.
Well, I think for me, it's more nervous about the federal level elections than anything. Election nights since the 2016 elections, nothing really has been the same. The surprises, and we hope for some good wins today.
Put the mic a little bit closer to you. Thank you. First of all, before we go into the elections, maybe this will take some of the nervousness out. I think you're excited. I don't think you're nervous. Let's talk about you for a second. You ran an outstanding campaign for speaking about great candidates all in one race. You were really impressive in your first try out there. Had a lot of support, had a lot of good endorsements. Tell us about that experience last summer and thinking back on it. How do you add that up for yourself? How do you feel you did?
I was shocked at myself because I think running a race was something I didn't plan on. And going into it, it was a learning experience. It was a growth for me. And one of the most important things was growing up in Houston, Texas, I didn't see Black, queer, African immigrants in places of power. I rarely see people living with HIV running for office. So I didn't see someone like me out there. And the whole process was such that I had a representation that was never out there. And it was something I enjoyed doing, listening to people, knocking on doors, knowing the needs of the community, and getting ready for the next one.
That was one of the things that was really exciting to me, John, too, is just seeing all the yard signs with all the different names. But the names you talk about diversity. You had Chipalo, you had Elijah, you had Ashiofu, you had different names that they weren't your normal English names. You had European names. You had some real diversity in the candidates. And first of all, hats off to all of you for throwing your hats into the ring. And second of all, it really did represent the diversity of our district, which is so exciting.
But and that's a really good point, Juan. We have a lot of things that we do good, and we have a lot of faults in this country. But one of the things I think we do fairly good, is having clean elections and having people rise to serve in an elected office. I think when you look around the world, we know that there are places that are not necessarily. If you say you're for one party, that could cost you your life or that kind of thing. Here, I know the voter suppression is an issue, and we're going to deal with that. But I think as an endorsement of our system, I think it works because we are seeing more candidates who don't have the same names as Smith and Jones and that kind of thing. And that's beautiful. That, again, relates to the diversity of this country. Again, 30 to 35 years from now, this country is going to be predominantly people of color, biracially or multiracially. That's a fact. We know that's happening. So
as you were running and being new to this arena, how did this impact your family? What did your family think about you running for office?
So I would say being Nigerian, a thing about being Nigerian, we are pushed to be very ambitious. So it was like the only person that wasn't really was not happy about me running was my older brother, because he was scared about a dirty campaign. And I had to assure him that in this part of the country, one of the good things about Seattle, really, especially the 37 district, is it's not a dirty campaign district. It's all about what's your issue, what do you believe in, and what can you bring to the community.
Yeah, and networking with the people. That's the beauty of it, right?
When you were knocking on those doors and when you were having those conversations, what did you perceive as the issues that were the most important that you heard during the summer?
Education, especially South Rainier area, where schools, the basketball courts was down. People were talking about the street safety, especially for transportation. And one thing I heard again and again and again was gentrification and affordability of housing.
Yeah, that seems to be it. The laundry list.
Let me ask you this: How did this change Andrew? What the whole process of running for several months, the fundraising, the phone calls, the texting, the conversations, the door knocking. How did that change you?
Whoa, tremendously. I remember after the election, I took like a week or 2 weeks to recover, and as soon as I stepped out, I haven't gone anywhere without somebody knowing who I am. And I was in Olympia. The lieutenant governor knows who I am. But the most important thing was I brought issues from a community that didn't have a voice. And so I've been, I've gone to organizations have reached out to work with me to bring out to help. The African community now wants to be more involved in civic engagement and education. The LGBTQ community, they've been very supportive. The healthcare people, talking about HIV/AIDS. But me as an individual, I think it was they say I was a diamond in the rough, and the whole primary election was buffing of the diamond to bring out that which I am now.
Very good.
What will be your next step? So the community wants to know on our community radio station, your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. People want to know what Andrew's going to do next.
Well, watch out for December 27th for the announcement.
That's good.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yes,
We'll
I would
keep that
say
in mind.
the next step has started already. It's very low key now, but the official announcement will be on my birthday when I turn 40 years old.
That sounds good. Well, I don't even remember being 40.
We're going to be,
Well, no, okay.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Andrew, we just really appreciate you taking some time to come spend time with us on Rainier Avenue Radio. It was a really exciting campaign. Appreciate what you've learned, your insights.
Okay.
And so we're going to go ahead and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We hope to see you in the future. We'll be looking
Nice
for that
meeting you.
announcement.
Thank you.
We're going to go to a break, and we'll come back with
Right back.
Michael Wolfe on your community radio station, RainierAvenueRadio.org.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
And welcome to our live studio audience for another exciting edition of Did You Know? And here we go with round one. Did you know?
The COVID vaccine is free and easy to get. You don't need insurance or an appointment to get your vaccine. Vaccines are available at many locations near you.
And now we're going to double the value. Did you know?
The COVID-19 vaccine is always free of cost. You can visit pharmacies, community health centers, and other health providers in your neighborhood.
And now for the lightning round. Did you know?
The Delta variant of COVID is a mutation that has health experts worried because it's twice as contagious.
Then for our finale. Did you know?
The best way to protect yourself from the COVID Delta variant is to get fully vaccinated. Get your vaccine today.
Find out more at kingcounty.gov/vaccine. Did you know?
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
kind of nonsense conversation we're having here.
The Neon Goat Show. The Neon Goat Show. Right here on Rainier. What's it? Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Right about now.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm so tired. I have to pee.
Earshot Jazz Festival kicks off October 8th and spreads out over 10 Seattle stages through November 6th with concerts all around the city. All concerts live and in person, and many of them streamed directly to your home. Tickets and information available up online. Earshot.org. It's the Earshot Jazz Festival 2022. See you soon.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Marshall Field.
You ready? Now we're getting ready to go on. Hey, welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio's Election Night Special. Juan Cotto, your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world with Jay Yeezy, John Yasutaki, longtime Seattle community activist, leader in our community, and certainly someone who is so in tune with this year's election. And you've probably heard us during the fall as we were calling football games, and we were encouraging you to vote. And of course, tonight is the night that those votes are counted, and the impact that they will have for the future. And we're always living history.
Right.
And tonight, of course, will be a historic night for so many. And we've had a couple of different candidates in it. We had Chipalo Street come in, Andrew Ashiofu came in, talking about their experiences as they were running for the 37th district. Obviously, Chipalo was still in that race. Rory O Sullivan talking about ranked choice voting. But before we go on to Michael Wolfe, who's here with us, once again, our thoughts, our minds tonight are in North Seattle at Ingram High School, a tragedy that is not only unexplainable, it's unimaginable. And thinking about the beautiful play by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton, living in the unimaginable, and it's such an unimaginable situation. And my thoughts, my prayers are with those families, with those students, with the faculty of Ingram High School, with our entire community, really, when a tragedy like this occurs. So our whole show, our efforts tonight are dedicated to those families, and hopefully we will raise awareness about issues. And we are thinking about you tonight on such a day that you really need to be uplifted. So we are with you.
We are with you. No, thank you very much. It is. The unimaginable happens all too frequently, unfortunately. And when it does happen, the impact of it, it's felt just so deep within the community as well as the families involved. And that's the thing I learned when I worked with the Department of Justice, the impact of something like that, the trauma. It's long lasting, and there's a lot of healing that has to take place. So, thank you, Juan, for mentioning that. Was just great stuff that you presented.
If you are sitting there and you are on your couch and you are just kind of listening to this, and your ballot is sitting in front of you on the coffee table, do us a favor, pick up the ballot, grab a pen, and
black ink.
We'll even take navy blue ink. Fill in the little dots, and I know it's painstaking. And also, in the next 15 minutes, would you do me a favor? Fill in all of the people who are running unopposed for judge. There's some really great judicial candidates there, and they're running unopposed. You still need to vote for them. Put the little ink into those little circles, then go ahead and seal it into the hermetic envelope, and take it to a drop box. You still have about a half an hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, half an hour.
7:31 right now. You have 28 minutes to get your ballot in. There are neighborhood and community drop boxes all over the city.
76 locations across this city.
76 locations.
76.
And a lot of them are in walking distance from your place. So you may think you're far away. It's a short walk. It may be a little bit of a jog by the time you fill everything out. But please take the time to turn that ballot in. I wrote a story about it in my blog at Bloodworks Northwest. I like to turn the ballot in immediately. I vote the day I receive the ballot. I'm sure it's one of the first ballots that's in Renton. I try to make sure that mine gets out of the house because I'm afraid I might lose the ballot. Might get lost in my bills, or I might knock it off the table and fall behind the furniture, and I won't find it. So I want to get that into the mailbox as quickly as possible. A lot of you you're waiting to the last minute, and understand because several friends of mine like to take their kids and watch all the people parading to the ballot drop off. I think that's a beautiful thing. That's not how I do it, but hey, whether you vote early or you vote late, please take the next 28 minutes to get that ballot into the ballot box in your neighborhood. And with us now is Michael Wolfe, community activist, Democratic Party activist down here in Southeast and Central Seattle. Been a part of the 37 District Democrats for a number of years. And he'll tell us a little bit about what he's doing for the rideshare group. He will also talk to us a little bit about the Chicago Cubs. He might like what happened with the Seattle Mariners this year.
Oh, that was great.
And wasn't that exciting? Wasn't it great to be in the city?
I went to the game that clinched the playoffs.
Wasn't it great to be in the city with good baseball for once?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, the city of Chicago has good baseball. I mean, the Cubs have certainly been to the World Series a few more times than the Mariners. But we won't get into that too much. I'll just say, a couple things. I want to go back to what you were talking about real quickly earlier about the unfortunate events up at Ingram High. I used to be the interim executive director at Washington Ceasefire years ago, and the reason we have elections, the reason that we vote, and for all of you who haven't gotten your ballot, there's 20 some locations in the city of Seattle to drop off. Go do it. You have half an hour, a little bit less. The reason why we vote is to make sure that our elected officials represent us and our interests in the elected bodies. And if we take that not seriously, then we are not going to be able to pass good legislation that will help prevent tragedies like this. Right? If the Republicans nationally get control of the three branches of federal government, you can expect stand your ground laws. You can expect guns in schools, teachers being armed, all these things. The idea that a good guy with a gun, it is a myth. The statistics are clear. The number of justifiable homicides, which is good guy with gun, is in the hundreds every year, like low hundreds, like barely 200. The number of gun deaths every year is 30,000+ a year. It's not a thing. Good guy with a gun is not a thing. Don't buy it. Vote for people who want common sense gun control and to keep guns out of schools and to stop the flow of guns from loose gun states to strict gun states. This is how we need to address this problem so that these tragedies don't ever happen again.
So well stated.
Michael, in the next 28 minutes, in the 27, 26, 25 minutes, people are going to have an opportunity. They're going to have an opportunity to vote for state representatives. They're going to have an opportunity to vote for their congressional offices. They're going to have an opportunity to vote for one of the third of the United States Senate that's going to be up for grabs right now. We have a Senate candidate out there. We have a Senate race in the state of Washington. The voting matters, and these issues do matter.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, you look at this. People are, and it's almost unfathomable to me that people are even thinking that Tiffany Smiley is an option. I mean, you know, I know I'm on radio here, and so I should be a little unbiased, but I'm not. Patty Murray is an excellent senator. She's been an excellent senator for the years that she has been in the Senate, and she deserves to go back to represent Washington. She represents Washington well. She has always represented our industries, our businesses, our people. She's everything you could want in a senator. Tiffany Smiley wants to make abortions illegal federally. She isn't supportive of Washington in the way that I know Washington to be. And to think that this is even close, it's mind-boggling. And I don't get it. I look at this and go, when was the last time Patty Murray even lost by, or won by less than 5 points? It hasn't happened a lot. And, you had good Republican candidates like Dino Rossi running against her and couldn't do anything. Yeah, so it's mind-boggling. It's that close, but apparently it is. So.
Yeah, well, Mike, you bring a good point. In the direct way, the level of extremism that permeates this group that's attacking voter rights, abortion rights, all of these things, health, Social Security, veterans. Hey, that is now so far. You know what I'm saying? They are the true radicals. They used to impugn the left as the radicals and those commie social pinko. These people are so far out there. It's frightening to me. It's very frightening.
John, I'm just going to level it here. They're borderline fascists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. And
You're a good call. That's a good call.
Anytime you're going to get one group who wants to see the oppression of any other group, whether it be people who are transgendered, whether it be restricting access to the votes for minorities, whether it's gay rights, whatever it is, you are actively going through to try to oppress another population. In my book, that makes you a fascist. It's just that simple. And to think that in 2022, my grandfather was a navigator on B-17s built right here in Seattle during World War II. He served his country. He was shot down once, floated on the wing of a plane in the Mediterranean. He was picked up by a British cruiser. So, he served honorably. He served to protect our country from fascism, from this kind of oppression of peoples. And that we've lost that we are in this thing where this kind of religious extremism can happen in the United States, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Jay Yeezy, John Yasutaki, Michael Wolfe, and Juan Cotto on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Michael, what are some of the things that you were looking at in this election? Obviously, especially with the legislature, you and I both go down to Olympia, try to work to make sense of the issues that we represent. What were you looking at in terms of the legislature, people that can work on the issues that you're representing with rideshare and other issues that you've been working on?
You know what I'm encouraged by is a lot of the candidates that we're seeing running, whether they're incumbents, challengers, or running in open seats, can really. I'm looking for the candidates that are really understanding the nuances of some issues. Not every issue is black and white. Not every issue is cut and dry. As we've been talking, some guns, abortion, those issues are pretty cut and dry for people like us living in this part of the world. But we've been working on it, as Juan said, I've been doing a lot of work in the rideshare community and broadly in about independent work. So I am the executive director of an organization called Drive Forward, and our members are gig workers, independent workers, who are looking to government and to get some protections that would normally be offered to your standard W-2 employees, right? And Washington State's been actually pretty good in leading on these issues. For example, just last session, they passed House Bill 2076, which set a minimum earning standard across the state for rideshare drivers. And so the next sort of steps on this process are coming up in this legislative session. There's a study on unemployment insurance that the state had to do, and there's going to be legislation on how these rideshare companies can pay into the unemployment insurance system, so that we don't see what happened during the pandemic, where we had to rely on federal dollars to be able to pay these workers unemployment insurance when they couldn't go work. So there's a lot of good movement on this. We're advocating for a lot of this. One of the things that was really beneficial to a lot of the drivers, and kind of a little bit in the weeds, but we'll go here anyway. A lot of drivers get deactivated for a lot of weird reasons. One of which is if you have 3 accidents and none of them are your fault, you get deactivated. That's not fair.
No, it isn't.
If you're a safe driver, but someone else isn't, you shouldn't get penalized.
Right.
So we got that put into the House Bill 2076. So now the companies can't deactivate you if the reason for the deactivation is an accident wasn't your fault. We're looking after the little guy. We're making sure that these people can get out there, do their job, maintain their independence and flexibility, and be able to keep earning money in the city.
And I think that's one of the things that we forget sometimes about the rideshare drivers. We have people who are driving for Uber, people driving for Lyft.
Right.
It's not like they're raking in millions. They're going out, and it's an independent activity. It allows them some flexibility. and it gives them an opportunity to put a little bit of money in their pocket. Some of them, are super achievers, and they drive at the right times, so they're able to get good fares. But it allows working moms whose kids are in school the flexibility to go out and drive for a couple of hours and pull in some money that really makes a difference.
Yeah, and especially in a city like Seattle, it's such an expensive city, as we all know. Everyday costs keep going up with inflation. So we're really looking to make sure that people can continue to earn a living in this. Even I did it for a while. My kid was in middle school and high school. Because you know what, paying for the little after-school programs and this, that, and the other, it gets expensive. Now he's in college, and that's also expensive.
Yeah.
So everyone does it, comes to it for a different reason. The vast majority of people who do the work do it part-time. Whether you're talking about the people doing DoorDash and Uber Eats, or the people actually doing the rideshare on Lyft and Uber, the majority are part-time people, as you said. Moms who are doing it while the kids are in school, dads who are doing it while the kids are in school. It's everyone across all walks of life, coming from all different backgrounds, and we just want to make sure that at the end of the day, that they're going to pay a fair wage, that they're getting some protections through either workers' comp, sick and safe time, unemployment insurance, some of these basic things that are state systems. We're also going to be looking at doing the paid family medical leave.
FML and BFML.
So it's going to come around then once we're done dealing with the rideshare, we're going to move on and look at the delivery.
The impact of
Let me make that announcement. 15 minutes, folks. 7:45. Get your ballots in. Excuse me, Juan. Mike.
I'm sorry, and thank you. I thought that I missed the note from Daniel Bellis, but he's 15 more minutes. Get your ballots to those 76 locations. Go vote, and
20
wherever you are listening to us in the state of Washington. Of course, if you're in Hawaii, you have a little bit more time, and we do have people who listen to us down in the islands. But you have several hours. But get the ballots filled out, put them in a little circle, go take them and drop them in the box. Michael, there was talk of unions for rideshare drivers. I personally, when I was a rideshare driver, I really liked my independence and didn't want to be tied to a union. But I understand that I grew up in a union family, and understand that at Boeing, where my father was a union steward, understanding the importance that unions have played. And I was just wondering, in this new quote unquote gig economy, how was that conversation? Where is that conversation? And where are we at in terms of trying to make sure that drivers are protected, which obviously Drive Forward is working on doing.
Yeah, I think we have to understand, first of all, that the people that are doing this work are independent contractors. And there are some people that think that that's a misclassification. And I know, and especially in the rideshare industry and the delivery apps, it's a real fine line. It's a real gray area. I can see the arguments on both sides. But the long and the short of it is, the independence and flexibility that this kind of work offers, the ability to drive when you want, where you want, how long you want, set what you want to make, is the thing that drives a lot of people to this kind of work. And it's also the reason why it is a mostly part-time workforce.
No, you're supplementing your income.
Right.
The cost of living has so jumped skyward in this city that it just makes sense.
Right.
That we need to protect that ability to supplement your income.
And so
excuse me, I wanted to make that.
It's absolutely correct. And on the unionization issue, it's pretty clear cut in federal law that independent contractors can't unionize.
Yeah,
and that's federal. So unless that changes, there's not really much you can do there. On the other hand, as our organization is set up as a 501c6, which is a trade industry association. So since all these drivers are independent contractors,
you're right.
They can join an industry association. And so they come and join Drive Forward, and we do some advocacy work. We also do education. We also do training work. We have social events so we can network and meet other drivers, and we're trying to create a community around this type of work. And it's expanding. This type of work is growing and growing. You now have things like Rover.com, the dog walking service. They're all independent contractors too. You have TaskRabbit. People come and do yard work and handyman work and all that stuff. Also, all independent contractors, independent business owners. It is a very entrepreneurial community, and so we're just trying to make sure that they have protection.
Michael, and just when you and I first met about 6 or 7 years ago, and all of the wonderful characters that I've always known in the 37th district, and when you get to know it, you've always been so active, and you have such interesting thoughts on so many different issues. And you saw obviously earlier Rory O Sullivan, who's another one, another brilliant mind, and another person who gets involved in a lot of different things. So I'm just wondering, what were your thoughts in regards to ranked choice voting? And especially from somebody who's been through the alderman system in Chicago, tell us about your thoughts for ranked choice voting. And I wanted if you had a chance to hear what Roy said, and I want to get your take on that.
So I'll start by saying this: Roy and I are good friends, and I certainly appreciate all the work he's done on ranked choice voting and his passion for the issue and all the education he's done around that issue. My household was a split household. I voted to keep our voting system the same, but if it doesn't, I voted for ranked choice voting. My wife said, no, let's just go for ranked choice voting. So, I have some concerns around it. And from my perspective, the way the top two primary system is set up in Washington State, especially in nonpartisan races like city council, you already have effectively instant runoff voting. The primary whittles down to the top two, and then you run off the top two. It is effectively instant runoff voting, which isn't the same as ranked choice voting, but it's a system that I tend to prefer. I would prefer if in the primary someone got more than 50% of the vote, we were done, but that's not how it goes. I prefer the instant runoff voting. I think we're going to end up seeing an instant runoff in Georgia. The latest results I looked at before I came on the stage actually had Herschel Walker back up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by about a point. But we saw this. Don't worry, guys. We saw this 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, late in the evening, I stayed up really late, and Warnock came by and came up. It's all going to depend on where these votes are coming from, whether Fulton County, Cobb County, or the suburbs of Atlanta.
That's the impact.
That's going to be where it's going to be.
Fulton, Cobb.
There will be people staying up late tonight. Of course, in Hawaii, it'll be early evening, but it was like on the East Coast in Georgia, probably in Pennsylvania, some of the major elections, there will be a lot of.
I think what I'm grabbing what you're saying is, and I tend to agree, that our system, the two candidates that prevail, we are pretty fortunate that we get the best rises to the top in that method. I mean, it's not by choice. The fact is that the way it works, that happens. I mean, it's good. I understand the issue with ranked choice and all that, and all the giving everybody an opportunity. The problem is that everybody's getting an opportunity, but they're not fit to run for office or hold office. That's just my criticism. That's just my.
But sometimes there are two or three that are.
Yeah.
And you may in the election where there were 20-something mayoral candidates. There were 3 or 4 of them, and certainly I had one that I liked and endorsed. But there was 4 of them that were extremely good candidates.
Yeah, and I'd say that that's where I think the benefits of a system like ranked choice voting come out is when you have tons of candidates, 7, 8, 10, 20 candidates, because there were 4 or 5 candidates that I would have voted for if they had made it through the general election.
I still have my Hamilton yard sale. I like that.
So it's an interesting conundrum. As I said, if it does get changed, I did vote for ranked choice voting because I think that's a better system than approval voting. But that's my 2 cents on that.
And municipal elections coming up next year. All politics is local. We have some seats coming up next year.
Right.
Any thoughts in regards to those that will be coming up in 2023?
Well, all I can tell you is, rumors abound on who's running in what seats and against whom. I think there's a lot of things that the city council and current city council need to think about what they've done over the last 4 years, and whether what they've done is what the voters of the city of Seattle wanted done. I think the mayoral election and the citywide election had some very interesting results with Sarah Nelson and Bruce Harrell, 2 of the moderate candidates coming out of that. I think we may see more of that trend, and we'll see. I think some of the city council may have learned that always doing whatever one side of things wants doesn't make for good policy. And so we'll see how that shakes out. Not going to make any predictions yet. Want to see who actually files to run first,
and maybe who doesn't file to run.
That too, exactly.
Michael, thanks so much for taking the time to come down and be with us tonight.
Yeah, Juan, always.
Man, it's just we appreciate your candor. We appreciate your grasp of the issues and just how in depth you can be, and we also appreciate a Cub fan coming in every once in a while.
Hey, my sister got me an Ernie Banks jersey for my birthday this year.
Wow.
So I'm all set because let's see, the Cubs come into town, I believe, next year.
They do?
Yeah.
Across division.
This is going to be one of those Cubs home games.
I was an intern with the Chicago Cubs in 1988, the year of the first night game, and I have a Ryan Sandberg jersey and an Andre Dawson jersey hanging up in my closet.
Oh, you got the
Hall? Oh, yeah. We
Nice.
mentioned Hall of Famer Ron Santo, Franklin High School guy.
Yep.
And my classmate, Bill North, started his career as a Cub. Then he went to Oakland. Yeah, Bill North.
Michael, go get some rest and take care of that.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, have a great one. Thank you very much.
Michael,
nice meeting you. Great stuff, Michael.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. And I see my next guest sitting up there. Our next guest, sitting over there. And that is our man, Marvin Rosete. Marvin, come jump in here, Marvin.
Hello. How are you today?
How are you?
Okay, we go.
Marvin, this is where Marvin. We go to break.
Yeah.
So we are going to go to break on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. When we come back, we have the Suburban Cities man, Marvin Rosete.
All right.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's not noise.
Peace.
This is your Rainier Avenue Radio.world community update on the new City of Seattle Community Resource Hub, a one-stop online shop for city resources and information. Supported by the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, the Community Resource Hub can be found at seattle.gov/resource hub. It's an online portal of city resources, information, and tools to help community members connect and engage with city government and with each other. That is seattle.gov/resource hub.
This is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. Join me every week to get information on activities and issues that impact the lives of older adults and their families. That's Seniors Matter every week on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey, Seattle, Shop the Beat is back. Shop the Beat supports the economic recovery of small businesses, local musicians, and neighborhoods throughout Seattle. This program matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours to help increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide competitive pay for musicians who were significantly impacted by the pandemic. The City of Seattle Office of Economic Development is currently accepting applications from musicians and small businesses who are interested in participating. Apply for Shop the Beat at seattle.gov/economic development. Applications end December 1st.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and when I'm not cooking up a batch of my famous wood-flavored chicken, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Have you ever went over a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good?
Well,
Were you guys even using?
I was going to use it at the end.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Columbia City Theater on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Juan Cotto and Jay Yeezy, John Yasutaki, the pride of Garfield High School. He was ribbon Tony B, the Franklin Quaker. That he couldn't count to 10 earlier, but enough of that banter. We know that the Quakers can at least get up to 15. With us is a former a gentleman who attended the Fighting Irish of O'Day High School, my alma mater, and currently where a quarter of my paycheck goes for young Clemente Cotto. I'd like to say hello to Clemente and Araceli. Love you both. Get ready to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Marvin Rosete is with us this evening on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Marvin, so good to see you, man.
It's always great to see you.
The pride of Renton High School. And our suburban cities expert, Marvin, he knows the details of the South End area, the Rentons, the Burrians, the Des Moines, the Federal Way, where the mayor of Federal Way is running for a higher office.
Yes, he is.
But this man here can pinpoint so many of the different details. Marvin, tell us about what's going on in the South End and why those elections are so important.
Well, first of all, thank you for exploding my ego. I hope I can live up to it with all of the wonderful knowledge that's been there. I'm going to give you like the 10,000-foot level from what I see. Of course, there's a lot of the focus on the federal races, more towards the east, a little bit towards we're looking at Adam Smith and of course Patty Murray and how they think and what the South End is thinking, going all the way down the Federal Way. My notes are pretty there, and I know that all of you who are watching at this time, we're going to go probably about 15 minutes. We're going to see if our crystal balls are going to be correct and see where we're going with that. But let's start with it. Is there a particular race that you would like to, or do you just want a general overview and breakdown of what's going down there in South Sound?
How about we do this? Why don't we start with an area that you feel is the most important? Is there any major things going on in Renton this year?
Okay, well, there'll be a lot of things going on in Renton, but I think for those watching the federal races right now, the one that we're kind of watching right now, besides Patty Murray and Tiffany Smiley, that was a lot closer than we thought. That's because we now have an invigorated Republican base, more so now in your South King County. Renton is now starting to be that focal point, as well as Kent, Auburn, not so much Burien, not so much SeaTac, only just sheerly because of population. But as we get farther south and a little bit towards the east, then you're going to be seeing a lot of work, especially with there. What I can say about that race, specifically in the 8th Congressional District, I know that Kim Schreier has raised a lot of money, and I wanted to say to the supporters of Kim Schreier, with that extra money, I want you to take that extra money, gather it up, and buy a fruit basket to Matt Larkin for knocking out Reagan Dunn. Because what the Republicans did not see is they want someone who is more ideological to say the Trump base, a little bit more to the right, talking about their issues of voter security. But in reality, what you're talking about, everyday government, the person that you was actually the most electable was Councilmember Reagan Dunn. Not so much as a shout out to Reagan Dunn, but we're talking about some of the missteps about the National Party. They don't really care so much as they wanted someone that met the ideology of the moment. But if you're trying to win a seat and you want the guy to be elected, actually it was Reagan Dunn that would have given Dr. Conchari a little bit more of a run for it.
And that was a upset. I mean, a number of people
It
thought
was.
Reagan Dunn announced, and his mother actually holding that seat. This was going to be the second generation, and it was a major surprise when Matt Larkin, who
Came out
in
of
my
nowhere.
mind was kind of a political unknown.
Oh yeah, came out of nowhere. It literally came out of nowhere.
A lot of that, I think, is like we were talking before. A lot of that is the ideology, and that's what they're looking for right now. Someone who will have a little bit of where they're known to say, okay, we're gonna go along with the national politic, who's more in tune to ideological right with what they wanted to hear.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene clone is what I think he is. Yeah, he's,
And we know that he is not related to Hall of Fame shortstop Barry Larkin.
No. And he would say no.
No.
However, he would be very welcome to be associated with that, but no.
Barry Larkin would also say no.
Thank you.
He at least he's not playing like Herschel Walker and flashing a badge and claiming his Heisman honors.
Oh,
which
my
I don't
gosh.
think. But to Matt, he doesn't have to do that. He's relying on his relationships, both with DC, his relationships locally, and of course the needs of the many of the people who want to support his ideology. And that's why he really got through. So as far as that goes, you would see Reagan Dunn as the political moderate in that situation. So then that's what the Republicans there don't want to see.
The mayor of Federal Way. He is running for King County prosecutor.
Yes.
Against the Deputy Lisa Mannion in a very, very spirited and hot contested race. The polls indicate, as you're discussing, that people in certainly the suburban areas are looking for and also maybe throughout the county are looking for a more conservative candidate. Is his campaign one that the anchors of the people of that pillar of conservatism that want to see this strong public defense in our public systems, and prosecutors who are very, very aggressive going after and locking people up? Is this a candidate that is going to pull some of these candidates along, including Tiffany Smiley, or is this just an independent man who's running on his own ticket, and he's the one who's gonna be working to benefit by being the prosecutor?
Well, if you're looking at it from just crime and safety, it's probably more of a Seattle versus everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's what you're really seeing with the Jim Farrell campaign versus Lisa Mannion. And she has a lot of wonderful qualities. I know that your more staunch Democrats love. A woman of color, worked in the prosecutor's office right next to Dan Satterberg. Direct endorsement by the King County executive himself. You couldn't ask for anything better, except for when we're talking about those who are looking on the moderate side, those who are looking for law and order and justice.
Throw the bums in jail. Attitude out.
Right. And during the CHOP riot, riots and the demonstrations that we saw last year, back then in 2020, there was a lot of effects from in Tukwila and Burien and all the other cities because we lost some of our officers in order to support what was going on to the protests in Seattle, and we actually got hit by an organized crime wave that hit Renton, that hit South Center, that hit Auburn, all at once, knowing that we would have a police force. So we're looking at that right now as this has now become a Seattle problem. Seattle's problem has now reached the South Side. Is Lisa Mannion the person that we want, especially when, to her mind, her campaign, which Democrats believe in, which is the importance of restorative justice.
Right.
That is something that if you're a moderate, they want peace, law, and order.
Right.
And they're a little iffy on whether or not Lisa would be able to deliver that. And one of the examples of that would be Ann Davidson versus Nicole Thomas Kennedy. Will Lisa be that? I don't think Nicole is as ideological to the left of Nicole Thomas Kennedy. But again, if you are in, say, Federal Way, where he's at, Valanda Peter Von, County Council Member Peter Von
Reichbauer, right?
You are in line not with his politics, but you are in line with his political strategy, with his political beliefs. And so with that falls Auburn, with that falls Renton, with that falls Bellevue, with that falls everyone around Seattle, Shoreline. So that's what that's what you're going to see if you had to look at the voter heat map. Is it Seattle versus everybody else? We're going to find that out very strongly with that race. And Jim Farrell actually had some pretty good jabs against the men. Jim Farrell had been a prosecutor. Lisa, for the record, had not. Will that actually play? Everyone could say, hey, it's about organizing or running an office. To your line attorneys who are actually prosecuting these cases that the public is demanding that they work on. They want to know someone who has been in the trenches with them.
And experience, right? That's exactly right.
You just brought it up, and if we can just step back for 1 second before we go into the mechanics of that particular race. But it was before that people, you had those traditional cities where people had moved and they actually had lived in the Auburns. And I remember I went to Green River Community College. You had second and third generation families who were in Auburn, who were in Sumner, and who were in those different areas in the South County.
Puyallup and near Puyallup.
In the last 25 years in particular, it's really changed. I mean, people can afford to live there. The city of Seattle, the rates have gone up. I don't know how Mr. and Mrs. Cotto are still in the city of Seattle. We're clinging on by our fingernails. We're hanging on in this expensive market. But a lot of our friends have moved south, and they're living in Renton, they're living in Kent, they're living in Des Moines, they're living in Federal Way, they're living in Virginia. Those races and those areas of King County have become far more important, especially when you're running for countywide office.
That's
I think John had something he's going to.
No. But what you're talking about is the trend, the demographic issue. Look, you mentioned Bellevue. I'm on the committee, OCA, and we are stupefied by the element of Asians that are so conservative. They oppose affirmative action. They oppose, all of these things. And their stomping grounds are Bellevue, Mercer Island, Kirkland, Redmond. And you're saying to yourself, we're seeing that on the horizon because of what's happening at the shift in the population.
And John and I will probably agree with this, is that when immigrant populations, naturally speaking, they are about the American dream, law and order.
Right.
What they did not have in their communities from their country of origin, they really supported of that American dream. So they tend to be conservative. There's all of these wonderful reports about, of course, where you have a Vietnamese population that's about 65, maybe 70% leaning conservative, ideologically, because of that, and even to this day. But somehow we were able to get 3 elected officials out of that during that 2020 rush. We were able to get Kim Convan,
out of Renton,
Renton, Vietnamese. We were on the liberal side. We were able to get Joe Nguyen. We were getting Mylan Tai. It was a very historic and important moment for the Vietnamese community. But they also the community as a whole understood the moment. They were not going to wait for their perfect conservative to show up. They saw the time, they saw the moment, they all voted for it. I voted for these 3 wonderful candidates and these now elected officials. But if they had to repeat that again on the re-election, which is about to happen starting next year, Mylan Tai is going to in defense. I think she's going to be fine, since we're going to talk about East Side politics. I think she'll be great. Joe Nguyen, he ran against the King County executive and directly on the East Side, lost by 40%. Will that affect him in West Seattle? Probably not. Kimmy Convan, she's going to be up for election in a very something that in a place that's probably more conservative than Sorry. If this were Seattle, if this were Seattle, Kimmy would be fine. If in Renton, she might meet with a challenge, but that goes down to your connections in the community. And then I think Kimmy would be safe on that, but of course it's always that making not so much the conservative left, but the old timers of that town being able to be supportive of. Will they be supportive of new immigrants coming to the community? So that being said, I know I wanted to talk about maybe the 47th.
Please,
yeah.
No. I was heading over to the east side, so we'll go for 47th certainly. But I thought the conversation you just had in regards to the is this a generational issue with Asian Americans in regards to some being more conservative now, or is this just an issue that
he's right? They are embracing the American dream in the sense that they're looking at, when you look at the data, we looked at the University of Washington and the issue why they were so adamant against the University of Washington. The greatest number of Asian students there are basically students who come from families who are just recently arrived here. And they're paying an exorbitant amount of money to be students at the University of Washington, which the University of Washington says, hey, that's great for them. But we're seeing this backlash against affirmative action and what they call, programs that benefit only a small few, because they feel it's an attack and that taking away their rights and their ability to get jobs, to get their kids in school, that kind of thing. And we're concerned, very concerned, because we see some of the John Carlson types out there.
Well, we see. Well, in Renton, actually, we saw in the 9th congressional race.
Right.
We saw his name C. Chan, who also ran the campaign against Adam Smith in the 9th. He's one of those conservatives.
Yes.
Even the Republicans told him that he kind of needed to clamp down. But will he be one of the people in the future for the Republican Party? That's up to C. Chan, and that's up to the Republican Party to decide. Right. But he's very ideological to the right. And is that representative of all Asian Americans there? No, like you were saying. But more to the point of, so what is the power of the Asian American community? Well, you tend to get a little bit more liberal-minded in the second generation. So those who were born here, those who got the opportunity to go to college or get into college, those who had the ability to speak English a little bit better than their parents, or even their older brothers and sisters who immigrated with their parents. So you're seeing that advantage as well. And that'll be the growth for the Asian American community. Now, to the point of what's going on down south.
Hang on 1 second before you get there. He's Jay Yeezy, John Yasutaki. I'm Juan Cotto. We are on Rainier Avenue Radio .world, our community radio station, your community radio station, and you'll hear us calling sports. You'll hear us talking music. We've got Daniel Bellis, our producer, Fresh Juice. Check a look into that show when you get a chance. But also, Marvin Rosete is here with us, and we are talking politics. Okay. I will read them off the screen. I'm gonna. This is what we do. Thank you, Daniel. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and Marvin, please go ahead and riff on the 47th district and certain areas going on. I'm gonna go take a look at some of the election results that's coming up, and I'll take down the numbers.
No worries.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
This is your election night special on Rainier Avenue Radio .world, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I think back to what you were talking about, Asian immigration. I know that Juan was wondering, so what's really going on? Why are we getting such interest in the South? Well, we're getting this interest in the South because there are people who used to live in Seattle who are escaping Seattle.
Right.
Is it not? And then at the time, not so much about the ideology of how the Seattle City Council is, but we're also looking at. But we're also what we're really looking at right now is the economic aspect.
Right.
The rise in home prices.
Oh yeah.
The rise in what is now today the
Marvin, just 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Marvin,
okay.
Here's the results that they're coming up from King County.
We'll hold off on that. Hold on, Mark.
We're going to jump into the numbers right now.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Marv. Hold on. We're gonna read the numbers here.
Absolutely.
So in the Washington State Senate race, Patty Murray is jumping out to a big early lead over Tiffany Smiley. Patty Murray registered right now with 63.18% of the vote.
Wow.
Tiffany Smiley, who carpet bombed every single Seattle Seahawks game with commercials, 32.16%. So the early returns show the 5-term senator running for her 6th term taking the early lead. We have other results coming up. In the U.S. District House number 7, Gorilla Jayapal 84.26% over Cliff Moon. I think that's to be expected. Gorilla Jayapal going for her, I believe, 4th term in the United
State
States
Senate, Congress, right?
In District 9, a long-time Representative Adam Smith again takes the lead there over Doug Baszler, 71.02% to 28.72%. So Adam Smith over Doug Baszler in U.S. House District number 9. The Washington Secretary of State, a hotly contested race for most of the summer, Steve Hobbs has a 57.96% lead over Julie Anderson at 39.34% in the Washington Secretary of State race. So Representative Hobbs, I think he's going to be moving up to the Secretary of State's office. In Washington House District 37, number 1, this is to be expected, Sharon Tomiko Santos in her, I believe, let me count this up here, this will be her 24th year in the House. She has got an easy lead over John Dickinson, and that's to be expected in position number 1. And then let me see if we have for position number 2. We saw him earlier here on the show. Chipalo Street has 54.4% of the vote, reporting over Elijah Smith at 44.24%. It looks like Mr. Street is going to Olympia, representing you in the 37th district. Any other races coming up? Let's see. We're going to go. We had a judge race flash up there really quickly.
Municipal.
Daniel is pulling some more. Thank you so much. So, any surprises there for either of you?
Oh, none of the surprises that I see there, especially in the 37th. I've got the chance to talk to Mr. Street. I know that the neighborhood is with Mr. Street right now. And I know as we were talking, for those watching on the east side, I was looking at the Secretary of State's website. Those numbers are still holding strong for Senator Murray, still up in the 60% range statewide. But since we're talking about the east side a little bit, the 8th Congressional District, we're looking at Kim Schreier with 84,000 votes for 54.34% of the vote statewide against Matt Larkin with 70,000 for 45.36. Not necessarily the big blowout that I know that Kim was hoping for, but a lot closer that Matt Larkin, I think, expected to get. He didn't expect to get probably that much. So
for unknown, I mean, doggone. I mean, that's pretty good.
Of course, we're talking early returns, very early returns.
Very early
25 minutes after they've been counted, of course. But it looks like Senator Murray's got a big lead on Tiffany Smiley. And I think that the Murray campaign, I think a lot of people who are Democratic supporters were quite nervous going into this weekend. They were concerned that with the inordinate amount of commercials and the dollars that were coming into this race, and also an attractive candidate with a great profile, a great family profile, a husband who had been injured, and she had to leave her career to go ahead and take care of her husband. But through that, she was able to develop a certain following in the community. But it looks like the senator right now, after 30 years, is going to get another term in the U.S. Senate.
Right. And we were also looking, if you're also watching CNN, they were also talking about the Tiffany Smiley, Patty Murray race. They seemed a little nervous about Patty Murray and how difficult what might be for her in this race. But I know for those who are supporting Patty Murray and who know the campaign and the people on it, especially with the Democratic Party, they knew it would be rough, but they also know at the same time that they had full confidence in the Washington voters to send Patty back another 6 years.
The number 4 senator in the United States Senate in seniority, a powerhouse senator, and certainly a one tough out, which he has displayed over the course of a political career that now is starting to creep up there with Senator Jackson and Warren Magnuson. The third name on that list will be Senator Patty Murray.
Right.
A Washington State Cougar, certainly, and a woman who has really been able to transcend time.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about the Tiffany Smiley effect that it had on the candidate. So with that came, of course, you see the photos of her being supported by Minority Leader. Sorry, I forget his name. by the Senate Minority Leader. But also
by Mitch.
Thank you. I worked very hard to remove him from my brain. But for the crowd out there wondering where I actually lean, but we're also her photos are famous on all of the pieces of her support for President Trump. But with the Tiffany Smiley effect, gave the Republican Party something to rally around, something to get their own base excited. And so with that, that means that they had targets of opportunity down south in South King County. So that means that if you, so if we look at the 30th district right now, Christine Reeves, who had left her position which opened the door for Representative Jesse Johnson, who will be leaving the state, who left his position for another position with the state of Washington. That opens the door for her to return. Another return to come in would be also in the 47th, Claudia Kaufman.
Right.
And I know that she left, she was unelected for her position, and that's an opportunity for her to return back.
Yeah, right. And I think she's a strong candidate. From what I gathered, there's a lot of discussion about who she represents, and the timing is perfect. I mean, this is Native American, Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, when they're talking about who does she really represent, the Native American people, it's like none better, especially when you're talking about Auburn and the Muckleshoot tribes and Puyallup and right on the Wabash lands. I think she's the woman that needs to return to represent
exactly, because there are going to be issues amongst internecine issues with the tribe, but we cannot dissuade ourselves from the fact that a money-making operation, the Muckleshoot, are very successful, and they contribute to over 200 organizations.
Daniel, this is what we're going to do. I just talked to Tony. And Marvin, if you won't mind staying, we'll go one more half hour. We'll go to 9 o'clock. It is 8:28 right now. Why don't we go to break now, and then we'll come back. Tony will kind of kick off again
for the second
update, our final half hour. So we'll go to break right now on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the election return special, Tuesday night, November 8th. Daniel, go ahead and take it away.
Avenue Radio.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Dealing with COVID-19 is uncharted territory. Everyone has different challenges. People may feel anxious, down, or overwhelmed. For some, these feelings can lead to changes in sleep patterns, an increased use of alcohol or drugs, or withdrawing from the people around them. If you know someone who's having a hard time coping, you can help by reaching out to talk and listen. To learn more about how you can help someone in need, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. Brought to you by the state of Washington.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at the local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
The Beat of the Fox with Nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS. What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's not Pinoy.
Peace. If you or a family member are 55 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no co-pays or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and in your home. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not being reprimanded by traffic cops, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
World, this is our special election connection night. We're wrapping up the electoral season right here at the Clemson Theater. People have been coming in. We've got food. We're going longer than we anticipated. Of course, the polls closed at 11. You could no longer at that point go to the ballot box and drop off your ballot. And hopefully you've done that. Again, the importance of this whole thing is to vote. That's what this is all about. Again, we broadcast, we've had food, we've had folks come by, we've had a number of special guests that have joined us for commentary, and we're going to continue this for about another 20-25 minutes or so. Thank you for joining. If you're joining us for the first time, we're Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm going to tell you about some programming we've got going on, some broadcast highlights this particular week. On the 10th of November, which is Thursday at 12:30, we'll be joined by Kate Becker, King County Executive Dale Constantine's office. We're going to talk about the Cloud Break Festival. Now, what that is, the city is partnering with hotels, 70 different hotels. Our guests from other cities will get free tickets to over 20 venues. There'll also be 150 musicians that will be performing. This Cloud Break Festival goes on until the 23rd. And so find out more information about that when Kate Becker joins us on Thursday at 12:30. At 6 o'clock on Thursday, our own John Yastapi will be doing Seattle Here and Now. So shameless plug for Jay-Easy on Seattle Here and Now. And then at 7 o'clock, we are taking you all the way to Egypt. Live from Egypt, our very own Edgar Franks will be broadcasting from the United Nations Climate Conference. Yeah, that's right, the United Nations Climate Conference in Egypt. Our very own Edgar Franks will be there giving you the latest updates of what's taking place over in Egypt. Then on Saturday, we continue our high school sports broadcast
We start off with 1 o'clock. East Side Catholic will be taking on Spanaway Lake. The winner will advance to the quarterfinals. And then from there, at 4 o'clock, we've got Rainier Beach taking on Kennewick. Kennewick coming all the way over from the east side once again. And we know that last year, Kennewick came, beat O'Day, beat Eastside Catholic, then went on to a narrow loss to Bellevue in the WIAA championship. So Kennewick coming back here to take on the Rainier Beach Vikings. That's just 1 week highlights of our programming. We've got great programming, over 70 shows produced and hosted by members of our community. So we're going to get you some updates about what's going on locally, have some more conversation. Right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Juan Cotto and his co-host, John Yansson.
All right. Tony B, thank you so much. And with us still is our Suburban Cities activist expert, Marvin Rosete. Marvin's coming in and working with us this evening and give us some of the campaigns around King County. And Daniel's going to go ahead and flash up some of the numbers that have come in early on. Once again, here we go. Washington State Senator Patty Murray, the lead, the initial results have started to trim down a little bit, but certainly I think she is really, really happy right now with the way the results look. She's up 57.52%, so about 57.5% to Tiffany Riley's 42.29%. So the senator, the 5-term senators' numbers are holding up right now as we move into this U.S. Senate race. And here we are into the District 7. No surprise here. Representative Camilla Jafal, who has been a contributor here on Rainier Avenue Radio, she is really ahead. That's to be expected. 84% of the vote. A very safe seat for Senator Jayapal. Going to U.S. District 9, Adam Smith, and he's opened up a considerable lead. And once again, to be expected, Adam Smith is just a long-time stalwart in the Democratic Party, and certainly a long-time stalwart in the House of Representatives, representing over there in some of the Renton area, some of the districts over here in Seattle too, and then heading over to the east side. But right. Adam Smith and leading Doug Bessler, 71% to 28%. In the Secretary of State's race, and this was the one that people thought was going to be hotly contested, really, really good campaigns run by both candidates, and certainly Steve Hobbs. He is a former state legislator. He is going to be moving into the Secretary of State's office with a 57.96% lead right now over Julie Anderson, a really decent candidate who had a really decent campaign and a great profile. But the Hobbs a little bit too strong, it looks like, as the early returns are coming in. In the House here in the 37th District, your representatives, for those of us here on Rainier Avenue Radio, Sharon Tomiko Santos, been elected since 1998. I can't remember one of the guys she beat for that seat back then, but she certainly has been in there for 22 years. Looks like she's going to be in for 24 as she defeated John Dickerson. It's not even close, 90% of the vote to Representative Santos. Chipalo Street, and then this was one that was a hotly contested race. We had Andrew Ashiofu here earlier. Chipalo Amijah came out of the primary election last August. Chipalo Street, Representative Street, welcome to Olympia. It looks like right now with a 10% lead, looks like his lead from the primary is holding on, 54% to 44%. Chipalo Street, a Microsoft employee, has done quite well over there. Really talked about housing issues. Right. He's also very much into education and making sure that technology is input into our children's education. Somebody who's going to be a reasonable voice in Olympia. You heard him here earlier on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. The judges' races, we have Adam Eisenberg taking on Pooja Valdeli, and I can't see that name over this far. Sorry if I mispronounce it, but Pooja Valdeli. And looks like she's got a 56.23% lead over Adam Eisenberg. So the judge race is always so important, and this one definitely is one. It looks like we're going to see some diversity in our Seattle municipal courts. Another race that we're very familiar with down here in this area. I saw yard signs everywhere from these two candidates, and it looks like Damon Shadid with 69.17% of the vote over Najat Rose Atkins. Once again, two candidates who had a spirited race going on. And I know I saw these yard signs. I know that both of them have really impressive backgrounds.
Right.
And certainly it looks like Damon Shadid getting out just a little bit more of the vote right now as it's coming in. He's up 69% to 30% over Najat Rose. And we had a debate right here. Seattle Proposition 1, excuse me, changed to primary voting. And this is the one that Rory O Sullivan came in and was talking about tonight, the ranked choice voting. Right. And it looks like right now, and this speaks to the question that I asked, the difficulty of understanding it on the ballot.
Right.
And it looks like the no's have a lead right now. And I think usually what happens is if someone doesn't understand the issue on the ballot, and they can't figure it out in the voters' map, but they're going to vote no.
They're going to vote no.
And right now, this is very, very close, though. So we have 50.95% saying no, 49.05% saying yes. Be interested to see how these ballots.
Well, Juan, you have to read both positions to really understand which way to vote. It just, it's very confusing.
And here it is. Go ahead, Marvin.
And I was gonna jump into it. Just for example, if there's something that you don't understand, it's very easily not something you want to take out of sight, out of mind. And it takes a little bit more understanding as well as practice to understand these two systems. I see that. Sorry, I'm going to take this thunder away right now. We know that ranked choice voting is actually leading with 74.01%, and with approval voting of 25.99%. Ranked choice voting is something people have heard more of. I know that here in the city of Seattle, with a little more, there's been more promotion about ranked choice voting. But approval voting, I think, also has its merits as well, if you were to understand both. My personal preference, and I know that was different than your other guest, Michael Wolfe, about his ranked choice voting, but actually approval voting actually does have its merits as well. So, and I think it's a little bit a better system to understand.
But it looks like the people have spoken, and the ranked choice certainly is the preferred method. King County Charter Amendment number 1. Elections during the even years.
I have a lot to say about it.
And here we go. And it looks like the voters also have something to say about it, Marvin. With right now a 69.17% yes. So it looks like the King County Charter Amendment having their elections on the even years where there's more people voting. Marvin, what do you say about that?
Well, this actually impacts impacts a lot for your Seattle area voters, of course, because essentially what we do is that we have a general ballot every year, and a lot of these you could say, is it voter fatigue, is it campaign fatigue?
Right.
The people have spoken of that. We have more people who want less elections, which is true. So that way, but when we're talking about voter-specific elections, where you got the opportunity to focus strictly on a municipal race or strictly on a county race only, where you can talk and try to get, say, the King County executive strictly versus having the King County executive now competing with, say, a presidential election. It would be, even though you do have these even years elections, it'll be interesting to see when in the even years, will this happen during a presidential? Would it happen during a midterm? Right. I would like to see where this goes, but I see the logic where the voters would have to lessen the amount of voting.
But you said something really interesting. The campaigning and all the advertisements that I'd lived on Netflix, HBO, and all the other stuff. I did not go on to network TV because they're showing the commercials. I just got sick of them.
Like Marvin said, people want all their elections maybe all at once. It's kind of like the lottery.
People exactly.
They want more bigger wins. Right. They want more $2 billion lotteries and fewer the just the $100 million ones.
Yep.
But I went out and bought some tickets myself. King County Proposition 1, conservation of open land tax. And it looks like that is going to be a yes. Not surprising here in King County. We have a number of people who are so into open spaces and the conversation. The conversation. Please speak good English. Conservation of our public
Private
lands.
lands, right.
And it's ringing through 67% of the vote yes, 32.40%.
The
no.
Green Belt Initiative, all those
Exactly.
things, very important.
Even outside, I think also you're going to see this strongly in Bellevue. You're seeing this also strong, but this also tells me that you're also seeing it strongly in South King County, where they want to protect not just the resource, but the utilization of parks, because now you have more people who are actually leaving the inner city of Seattle
and coming out there to recreate.
Here's people like Tony B with their private planes, the aircraft fuel tax.
Right.
Tony will not be paying additional fuel taxes on his aircraft for when it fuels up. That Piper that he has, that Piper Cub, 57.99% say no on this. Wow. And just another one of these advisory votes where people are trying to come up with a way to kind of craft in a tax,
right?
To get into people who.
But
it's just an advisory vote. It doesn't matter.
Give me one of those big 730.
Yeah, right. Well, but we are the most heavily taxed fuel-consuming state in the country. Gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, etc. We pay literally up the nose.
Advisory vote number 40, the rideshare workers compensation tax, and that is going to be really, really close. Right now, it is 51.9%. No, 48.1% yes. Didn't get a chance to get Michael a chance to really to lead into this, but maybe he did. I mean, he really talked about the independence that some the rideshare workers feel, and this will be a very, very interesting one to see how this turns out, especially after the absentees come in.
Well, I think also what we're seeing, what this also shows us is that this is the support for rideshare. They also know that hey, any other tax just not only just to preserve ride share, it's supposed to be good for the ride share driver. But when the industry starts suffering, then you're going to see a loss of that ride share, the ability of companies to provide quality ride share as well. And I know that's something that the Teamsters seems to be fighting against. I know that the Seattle City Council is trying to make sure that workers who are working over with either your Ubers, your Lyft, your other rideshare companies are trying to make sure that they have a livelihood. But in the end, thanks to the black hole of legislation, which is Seattle, if Seattle passes something, all the other cities feel it.
Well,
we're going to feel it in Renton. We are going to feel it in Federal Way. We're going to feel it at the ride from the airport to Renton to Seattle and back and forth on how that's going to go.
The increased
So
costs.
again, it's only an advisory vote for the Washington State Legislature. They're going to get another bite of it.
But on the other hand, people who do that part-time, and I think I made the point, they do it to supplement their income.
Correct.
This is very important to them.
Yes.
And I think we need to weigh that,
It's big work, yeah.
He is Jay Easy, John Yasutaki, Rainier, one of the founding voices of Rainier Avenue Radio.world, has a number of shows. And one coming up at 9:30 tonight.
Yeah,
right?
what's cooking in Columbia City, featuring, because we're back in Columbia City now at the Columbia City Theater, featuring all the businesses in Columbia City and Hillman City that are locally owned, none by corporations, all locally owned and operated.
I am Juan Cotto, and I am the host of WIAA Primetime Weekly with the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, Nick Hoffman, and we sit down and we talk about issues impacting youth athletics through the high school ranks throughout the entire state of Washington. And Nick comes over here every single Tuesday.
And it's not just football, baseball, basketball, and it's individual sports, it's extracurricular activities, all of that stuff, yell leading, all of that, which is great.
Esports, we talk about all of it and the impacts. And he started to bring some of his staff in. We had DJ Kuntz come in, and she is incredibly talented and someone who is so supportive of education and kids in our community. So
very good.
Do that. There's the kicker for what's cooking in Columbia City. And this right here is Marvin Rosete. He is a long time friend of mine, and he is oh boy, I tell you, we talk politics, and he is a former political candidate for the city council in Renton. The man is working on his PhD, for crying out loud, at the University of Southern California.
USC.
USC. That's what it is.
University of Spoiled Children.
Tony B, who flies down there regularly in his Piper Cub aircraft. that looks like it's not going to be paying
half the taxes.
Tony B needs to fly down there more to give us support. Because we're going to the Big Ten in 2023.
Tony B's daughter is down there having the time of her life while we're in 37-degree weather. I'm about to car. I'm going to walk out in 36-degree weather. She's probably in what 72-degree and sunny day down there. It's beautiful down there, wasn't it?
Well, it was raining. My daughter told me it's raining, but it's still 60 plus.
Oh boy! So
thank you. 20 degrees warmer.
Another rough day in the city of Angels, but nevertheless, this man here getting his degree from a fine academic institution, a good football team
that we hate up here at UW.
Marvin,
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great being at the Big Ten along with UCLA. We know that's gonna happen.
Daniel's gonna put up some
numbers. Yep.
Daniel's gonna put up some other numbers. Let's focus on politics for a second here before we go into that nonsense, which is politics in itself, of course. Daniel's gonna put up some numbers. Hopefully, he can find for us the Lisa Mannion and Jim Farrell.
I have that right.
Oh, let's see what we.
I have that right here. We have Lisa Mannion in the Jim Farrell race with 31.8% reporting. Lisa Mannion is leading the race with 216,000 votes for 55.26%. Jim Farrell with 44.19 or 173,000 votes or so. So that tells a lot of how the people feel about what they want in their prosecutor.
Right.
So I think it's going to be. I have a feeling it's probably going to be Lisa Mannion.
That was a debate that we did here at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We got a chance to see both of those candidates up close and personal. A little bit of a surprise. I mean, so many people had texted me. Friends of mine were saying that Farrell was going to be the candidate, and that Lisa Mannion was so close to Dan Satterberg and the prosecutor's office that it needed a change. But it looked like the voters are saying, hey, this woman with a tremendous profile, woman of color, put her in the leadership position. That's what it's looking like right now.
And I think that's reflective of Dan Satterberg and his leadership in the King County prosecutor's race. I know it's very easy, of course, during the campaign where Lisa, of course, wants to put her own spin. But I know that Lisa will have to listen to the voices of the people who are supporting Jim Farrell, that they do want law and order, and that not all law and order has to become to service that from the people of the city of, from the city of Seattle. Back to so a little bit of law and order. We know that there's a lot of crime in South King County. I know just recently, within the last 2 months, we have five shooting victims in the city of Renton. We have another shooting victim this morning, and our hearts go out to the families over in Ingram High School. So these are the issues, real issues of how we're going to be able to worry about prosecution, law and order, vagrancy, open-air drug use, the reversal of the Blake decision, supporting law enforcement issue,
incarceration, etc.
And these are not conservative issues. These are real citizen issues that even if you are more on the liberal spectrum for politics, they would still like an answer for that.
37% of the precincts counted in that race, so we hit just about the 30% poll. Here we go. So we're going to get the final numbers of the night coming up. First of all, for either of you, any surprises in the numbers that we saw earlier?
No, not really.
No, not really.
I'm looking more nationally, though. When I get a chance, I'm going to look.
Well, not that of a surprise. I thought it would be a lot closer. I think I thought it would be a lot closer, maybe for the the U.S. Senate race. I thought it might be a little bit closer for the county prosecutor. It still might be. Because we know that people outside of Seattle are watching the crime rates, and they're seeing how they want to define their local prosecutor.
No, and that's good. But there were no surprises. 37th district, position 1 for sure.
Murray, Jayapal, Smith, Hobbs hanging on to their leads. Patty Murray staying really consistent as more ballots have been counted. She's still up 57% to 42%.
That's a good percentage.
Jayapal and Smith, we know those are
landslides, folks.
So as we're moving through, we're looking at Steve Hobbs right now in the Washington State Secretary of State's race, and this one's starting to narrow up a little bit. Before Hobbs had a considerable lead, now he's got a 50% to 46.64%. So Julia Anderson cranking that horse back there, cracking that whip. And some of those ballots are coming in from some of the unknown parts of the state, the statewide race, and we'll see how this kind of shapes out as the evening wears on.
Yeah, I think if we can go back to the Secretary of State race, I know that we still had a little bit of a political identity that's going on there. We know Steve Hobbs has, who was a Democratic senator, has declared himself as a Democrat. We know his opponent declared herself as an independent.
Right.
But for those who are independent, you are seeing some GOP members who are kind of ditching the GOP brand and are appreciating the independent brand. So that way they know it isn't just issues about information, voter security. It is about, are you counting my vote? Does a one person, one vote mean something?
Right.
And that is the lead is actually narrow. That was surprising. That someone from a party is getting challenged from someone who is a third party or an independent. This is probably the closest vote we've seen in the state of Washington.
Well, she has had experience dealing with issues voting. Steve Hobbs not, but he garnered a lot of support from the Asian community because of his heritage. And if when in doubt, people tend to vote based on ethnicity and race.
And if we're looking at resume, we know that Steve Hobbs, Senator Hobbs, Lieutenant Colonel Hobbs, Lieutenant Colonel, also Commander Task Force Olympic during the COVID crisis, and where Task Force Olympic made sure that state aid was received by outlying
areas.
He was in command actually of 2 units at the same time, which no one should. Although he had the honor of doing, he had the skill, but how does that translate to being Secretary of State? How does it translate to assuring voter security? How does it translate to making sure that businesses are also being able to be treated during that department?
3 minutes to go on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. And obviously, we're going to hear about some great food in Columbia City coming up. But Jay Yeezy, tell us your final thoughts as we're about to close this out.
Well, in some of the races, clearly, no surprises. Locally, I think it's pretty much a fait accompli. I mean, the candidates are expected to win are going to win. It's the national picture that's going to be the teller. Right. But again, what I think is pretty also telling is that when you go and you send out information that's confusing for the voters, that's exactly what you're going to get as a response, a confused vote, which does not help. That's my comment. Yeah.
And I did want to jump in because I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it in South King County in the 47th legislative district. We're seeing Claudia Kaufman, we hope, will be returning. She's got 13,000 votes with 53.46% of the votes. So hopefully we'll be seeing the newly reinstated Senator Claudia Kaufman. Deborah Enneman will be also returning with 57.63. And a very interesting race with position 2, where you have City Council member Chris Stearns.
Oh, Chris Stearns,
versus Shukriya Lau, who also ran in King County Council for her unsuccessful bid last year. We're seeing Chris Stearns in the lead with 66.75%.
That much, huh?
14,000 votes versus Shukriya Lau with 6,000 votes. And then that race was very interesting because we're seeing a traditional Democrat going against someone who is essentially more unabashedly not just liberal but socialist in leaning. And so we're looking at a community specifically that also, going back to the predictable politics, someone who also does not want that kind of they want that kind of predictability. Something that well-known parties.
That's true. People vote accordingly.
Once again, our hearts and our minds and our thoughts and our prayers and our love to the families up at Ingram High School. We're thinking about you, and this is just a big support of love and just all of our minds to you from your community radio station. Our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio World. Jay Yeezy, Marvin Rosete, and Juan Cotto saying thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're thinking about all of you.
Thank you for voting, and thank you.
No, that's it.
Thank you for supporting.